Welcome, everybody, to a special episode, Wire2Wire Sports Podcast, episode 132. I am the NFL genius, Gene Walzak, and to my right, I got Uncle Shally, Scholastic Shally, Mr. Bill Shallcross. How you feeling tonight, Bill?
Good, brother. What's going on?
I'm fired up tonight. We got a lot to get into. Our man Catrell is in the DR sipping pina coladas. Oh, man, he's having a good time. Happy anniversary, Catrell and all you. I'm sure you guys are having a great time right now. Don't watch the show now. Watch it when you get on a plane home. Enjoy the time in DR. I know how you like checking in. But I love you, brother. But listen, we got a ton to get into. We got our NFL running backs, top 5 prospects for the 2023 draft. We got a little bit of NBA talk. We want to leave the playoff talk out for a little bit until the series start really coming to fruition. Obviously, there's been some, the 76ers look great. Boston looks great. But we'll get into that. It looks like they're on a crash course to meet each other next round. But we want to talk about outside stuff like Dame or what player has the most pressure, and we'll get into that. We also have to give our hockey predictions, playoff predictions. Stanley Cup playoffs is just started, so we will be getting into a lot about the Stanley Cup playoffs, just our prediction for the championship. Last year, I think 2 of us did we all have Colorado? I had Colorado.
I think you and Catrell got it right. I had
Tampa.
I had Colorado in the finals, but I had Tampa Bay beating them. So you and Catrell got it right.
It was a great series. It doesn't matter. I think this year's going to be I got a different one for you this year. I got a different one, a little different. In the East, it's I can't go away from, but we'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk about the baseball. We're going to talk about things that are going on in Major League Baseball. The Phillies slide so far. Is it too soon to panic? But let's start the show off with the NFL running backs list. I have Catrell's list, his top 5. I think it'll be fun for me to read off his 5 first, and then we go over ours, and then we kind of break down and see how close they land to each other. Catrell's my graphic guy. I apologize. I don't have a cool graphic for you guys, but I will read them with heart. It'll come out with energy just for you guys at home. All right, so Catrell's list, we'll start at number 5. He has Tajay Spears from Tulane. His number 4 is Devin Archain from Texas A&M. His number 3, Zach Charbonnet. It's not Chardonnay, it's Charbonnet. Jahmyr Gibbs from Bama, number 2. And this is a trend right now. I think it's everybody's number 1. Maybe not mine, I don't know. But Bijan Robinson, number 1 from Texas. So it's not a bad list, and I'll talk about his list after we get up through ours. Because it's just 2 of us, why don't we go 5-5, 4-4, and then down this way we kind of feed off each other, see where we're at.
That works.
I'll start, and then you give me your 5, and we'll go back and forth.
All right, let's roll.
So my number 5 is Kendre Miller. I have Kendre Miller as my number 5. I know he's not on most people's top 5 lists. He's close. He's borderline. I think he's got it. He's a 3-down back. He's going to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield, and he can run between the tackles. I think Kendre Miller. See, I don't think this. Let me just be clear when I say this. I don't think this is a deep running back class. I think it's a very weak running back class. I think there's 3 elite, not elite, but professional starting running backs on this list. And I think everybody else is, we'll see. Kenneth Gainwell, plug and play, might work, might not. That's where my head's at. I think Kendre Miller could be a starter, or it could be a rotational thunder and lightning piece. But my number 5 is Kendre Miller.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with some of what you said. I think a lot of people are rating this class very, very deep for running backs, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I just think I would say usually, like you said, usually have 2 or 3 elite guys, and then I think there's kind of like usually a big dip before you get to like down to the next group. And I think people are considering this group this year deep because I don't think the chasm between those 2 groups is that big this year. Kind of, piggybacking already, like what you said on, about Bijan, whoever you have at the top. I think there's a distinct number one, but I don't think it's a year where somebody is head and shoulders above everybody else in the class. I think, like you just mentioned, I think 1 through 8, 1 through 9 aren't separated by all that much. And I think if you get the right guy in the right system, I think you could have the 7 guy be just as productive as the number 1 guy.
I just got to watch a lot of Kendrick Miller when I was watching TCU throughout the playoff. I think he looks decent. He definitely can run the ball in between the tackles. He's an every down back for them. He's getting 17 to 22 carries a game. And it worked out well in that Big 12 system. I think he can be a fit in the NFL. So Kendrick Miller is my number 5. Who's your number 5?
Yeah, I mean, he's a tough kid. I mean, and he's a tough runner. He's not somebody easy to break down or to bring down.
220, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, he got a little banged up at the end of the year, and I don't think he got to really showcase, in the 2 huge national games as much as he wanted to. But kind of like you said, I mean, I could see him playing on Sundays next week. It's not some far fetched, illusion that he could start for somebody next year. But number five for me, I have Tank Bisbee from Auburn. Kid that was very highly touted a couple years ago. He's coming out this year. He's been a little bit, plagued by injuries, a little bit banged up the last year and a half. But when he's been on the field for, a very underachieving Auburn program the last couple of years, he's been very productive. He's a very tough runner. He's gotten better with catching the ball out of the backfield, which makes him more, more attractive as a 3-down back, in the NFL. And he's the same kind of guy. He's, not breakaway speed per se, but he's fast. He can make you miss for a bigger guy. And, like Gene said, I value a guy, that can run between the tackles. I think that's one of the most important things in the NFL. You can't get on the edge in the NFL and juke guys as easily as you can in college. You have to be able tough, and you have to be able to get those yards, those 3, 4, 5, 6-yard gains in between the tackles. I think Tank Bisbee is capable of doing that at the next level.
I like the way you made a mistake, but it came off perfectly. In between the tankles, the Tank Bisbee. Look, if we were rating top 5 names, he's got the coolest name. Like I'm going to hand the ball to the Tank. Yeah, like that's the nickname right there. I hope he's good in the NFL because I feel like that would be a perfect nickname, even though it is his name. But my number 4, I have Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. I don't think he's bad. I think that the pedigree of Alabama running backs is not. I don't think he's of that level. I don't think he's going to be Derrick Henry. I don't think he's going to be the kid from Pittsburgh. Why am I losing? I'm drawing blank. Running back, Steelers. Play for Bama. I'm out of it tonight. What is going on? Najee Harris. Not Najee Harris. So I think that Alabama front, like offensive line, the quarterback, and the team makes Jahmyr Gibbs look a little better than he is. I have him a little lower rated than most people do. He's still a solid prospect. Having him in my top 5 running backs means it's not a bad thing. But I don't have him as high as other people do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with some of what you said. I actually agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, I'm going to get into him in a second, but number 4 for me, and I have Devin Achane from Texas A&M. This is the elite speed guy in this class. He is a breakaway guy, a guy that if he gets through that first level and you don't touch him, just save your energy and don't bother because he's gone. He's going to run by your linebackers. He gets any kind of crease or any kind of seam. Like I said, he gets in that second and third tier, and you don't have a hand on him, or you at least don't knock him off balance or slow him down. Kiss it goodbye. The dude's a home run threat every time he touches the ball. I think he has a higher ceiling than maybe even some of these guys I have ahead of him. I think he has a lower floor, and that's where I have pause with him.
I can tell you his floor. Do you remember Michael Bennett?
Yeah.
Running back from the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah.
That's his floor.
Yeah.
A fast guy that can't seem to break the arm tackle.
Correct.
I think he can, but I can understand where others don't. Like, he seems to be elusive and evasive, but there's also a lot of times where a slap at his leg is taking him down, whereas to be an elite running back on Sunday, you need to be able to get through that.
And I think that's something he's going to have to work on. And I think he's got to work on catching the ball out of the backfield a little bit more.
Sure.
We all watched Texas A&M play last year. Their offense was a dumpster fire for 80% of the year. So that did him no favors whatsoever. But again, I think it's a kid that is number 4 on this list, and it could very easily, when it's all said and done, be a lot higher. I think he could surprise a lot of people. Again, I think he is not solely dependent, but I think he goes the right system where they run a certain kind of offense, or if they're running a man-to-man versus a zone blocking scheme, stuff like that. I think that could benefit him. But again, I think he's a very high ceiling. I think he has the capability of being very good.
You want to talk about a guy that came on late? I'll talk about him a little bit later, but his last 3 games solidified him to me.
Mm-hmm.
But my number 3 on my list is it's going to shock some people, is Bijan Robinson. I have Bijan number 3, and it's not a slight to Bijan. I think the top 3 guys are on a different class than the rest of the running backs in this class. My 3 guys I think that are the best, you'll hear them. I think Bijan makes a lot of really unnecessary cuts. I think he's super athletic, but I think his biggest problem is his instincts. Watching him on film, he thinks he's Barry Sanders. Like, he tries to go backwards, to go forward way too many times, and it's unnecessary. I think his decision-making is poor. You'll need a coach to beat that out of him. I don't think his breakaway speed is as good as people think it is. I mean, he's fast, but I don't think he has that level of speed that's going to, like, for instance, he's not Chris Johnson. He's more Miles Sanders, like in the sense that he can explode through the line of scrimmage, but you're not going to break off many 60, 70-yard runs with him.
He's not the track speed type of guy. He's not that. He's got very good to elite speed. He doesn't have breakaway, like pull away from people's speed. Like, and I agree with you on that.
I'm sure Eagles fans are crucifying me in the chat right now, but at the end of the day, they all Bijan or bust at number 10. I do not want the Eagles taking him at 10. I really do not. Listen, I would love for the Philadelphia Eagles to take 10 and 30 and move up with Arizona number 3 and get Will Anderson Jr. Like, that's what I want. Give me that. But we'll talk about that a little as the draft gets closer. Hopefully the trade doesn't happen by next week, but I'm glad I put it on record if it does.
I mean, I think that would make a lot of Eagles fans happy.
You'd forget about Bijan Robinson, right? And if Jalen Carter's there at 10, because some drafts have him slip into 10, I don't like Jalen Carter or Bijan Robinson. It's not a question. You take Jalen Carter 100 times out of 100.
No, you get that card up front as quick as you possibly can if he's sitting there at 10. But number 3 for me is a guy you just talked about, Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. You brought up a very good point that I wanted to. He is not in the elite echelon of the guys that have come out of Alabama. I think he's very good, and I think what Jahmyr Gibbs possesses still, I think he still possesses elite physical traits. I don't think he's as much of a natural runner as, a Najee or even a Derrick Henry, and I don't think he's not as big, so he doesn't have toughness or a guy that's going to wear you out for 4 quarters. I still think he has to work on catching the ball out of it a little bit, which they tried to implement more as the season went along. But he does have very good speed. He's very shifty. He is very good between the tackles, and I think his best attribute probably is he has great vision. That those things will translate, and he can continue to work on the other things. And again, I think he has a little bit of a lower floor than I think a lot of people would like to admit to with him coming out of Alabama. But I think he has a very high ceiling because of the physical attributes that he possesses. I think he's a guy, again, that if he's going to go to a team where they're going to hand the ball 20 times a game, I think he's going to be very successful. So I have him number 3. Like Gene already said, I've seen, when I was doing this earlier, like there's people that have these guys in every imaginable order that you can think of, from like 1 through 8. I would say it's mostly the same kids, 1 through 7, 1 through 8. But I've seen lists with
Charbonnet at 8, Jahmyr Gibbs at 6.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
It's all over the place. It's really what you value and what you think, who's going to be the best fit for your team. But I have Jahmyr Gibbs number 3 again. I think he has the ability to start next year and be a decent contributor in his rookie year.
This was really tough for me because he's my favorite running back in this class, the guy I have number 2. I most like him, and I most want the Eagles to get him. I think he's the most versatile back in this draft. I think that he can do it all: run between the tackles, run in the outside. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. But from my number 2, I have Zach Charbonnet from UCLA. I love the kid. I wanted to put him number 1. I really did. I struggled back and forth, and I'll tell you why I went with the guy I went with number 1 shortly. But Charbonnet, 1,359 yards this past year, 37 more catches out of the backfield, 14 touchdowns on the ground, averaged 7 yards per carry. The guy did it in between the tackles. The guy did it outside the tackles. I mean, I just want to go through his last 5 games with you. He played against Oregon, went 20 for 151. It's the number 10 team in the country. Then he went against Stanford. It wasn't the greatest team in the country, but he had 21 for 203 touchdowns. Then he went against Arizona. He had 24 for 181 and 3 touchdowns. USC was a boat race. Like it was not a boat race. It was a high-scoring game, back and forth. They didn't run the ball as much with Charbonnet. He had 19 carries for 95 yards, but he had 6 receptions in that game. And then he went against Cal, 24 for 119 and a touchdown. The guy's proven to take the ball 20 times per game. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run in between the tackles. He can run around the outside. He has good speed. Ran a 4.41 at the combine. He's got good speed, not elite speed. 4.41 to me is elite, but that's not for here. For me, I couldn't dream to run 4.41. But
you and me both.
But he's a complete running back. Like I could see Charbonnet going end of first round or mid-second round to a contending team. Like could you imagine Buffalo just picking up Charbonnet and having their starting running back be Zach Charbonnet going forward? And he would fit in perfectly in that situation.
I don't disagree. They would still have to make the conscious decision to give the running back the goddamn ball, 5 times a game. But I totally agree with your sentiment there, though.
That's my number 2, Zach Charbonnet.
So my number 2 is the same as Gene's. I have a different point of view on Zach, and I'll tell you why. With me being a Michigan guy, Zach originally was recruited by Michigan and played at Michigan his freshman year. Had 1,000 yards rushing. At some point somewhere along the way, had a conversation with Jim Harbaugh, and he didn't like I guess what the prospects were of what the next 2 to 3 years were going to hold with guys like Blake Corum coming in, and then obviously after his freshman year, they had just signed Donovan Edwards, who was the number 1 running back in the country. People are familiar with what he did last year. So he transferred to UCLA. I don't really usually get attached to too many people or, really follow them if they leave the program, under, a transfer portal type thing, or if I think people are, leaving because they think, there's greener pasture somewhere. That was not the case with Zach. I loved watching him play his freshman year. I thought he was great. He turned out to be every damn thing and then some that I thought he was going to be. I rooted for the kid. I watched UCLA games just to watch him play. He was the first kid
to DTR, man. Him and DTR were fun to watch all year.
He was one of the first kids that transferred out in a long time that I was really pissed off about.
But it wasn't. You can't blame him.
No. I'm saying I was pissed off as like a fan. I was mad that he left my program, because I thought this is what he was. And he's I got to give him credit. He left, went to UCLA, and honestly, when he went to UCLA, that was kind of it was kind of a head scratcher for me. I mean, Chip Kelly had just gotten there. Chip Kelly is notoriously not a huge running guy, but he like you said, paired with DTR, they became a dynamic duo. Zach Charbonnet is going to start for an NFL team next year, most likely, and he should. And I think the scary part is, like Gene said, I think you could see somebody at the very end taking a shot on him, or even somebody trading back into late in the first round, a very good playoff team that needs a running back. He dramatically improved from his freshman year to his senior year in catching the ball out of the backfield. He is quick. He's a lot quicker than he looks. But he's a sturdy. He's a stocky little kid. Like, he can take a hit and he can hit somebody.
They
like,
said his balance is his number one attribute. He has great balance.
Yeah, his big comparable is and it's funny because I saw it like 4 different places, is MJD.
I was just about to say that without seeing it.
Yeah. So and if you watched football a decade ago, you know what he was. So I hope this kid gets drafted. I'm still pulling for him. He's great. Like Gene said, there's no aspect of being a running back that he can't do. So I think he's going to be very successful at the next level. So I have him number 2.
All right. So my number 1 is definitely going to give people some head scratching, and that's okay. I have Devin Achane from Texas A&M as my number 1 back this year. This could be one where I have egg on my face. 100% could be. He's an elite speedster. It's like trying to project Tyreek Hill, and you get John Ross. Like, you don't know what you're getting. Are you getting Tyreek Hill or are you getting John Ross? I know it's a different position. But what really sold me, look, I was of the inclination that he can't break arm tackles. You can't give him the ball 25 times a game. He's just not that guy. This is a track level speedster. He will instantly be a top 3, top 5 fastest guy in the NFL as soon as he walks in the NFL. Here's what sold me on him. November 26th versus number 5 LSU. 38 carries, 215 yards, and 2 touchdowns. November 5th versus Florida. 16 carries, 122, 2 touchdowns. October 29th versus number 15 Ole Miss. 25 carries, 138 with a receiving touchdown. He had 36 receptions, 3 touchdowns in the air. He had 8 touchdowns on the ground with over 1,100 yards rushing. I think he's special, and I project him to be special. His floor is Michael Bennett, who is a decent running back for the Minnesota Vikings. His ceiling is Chris Johnson. And if you want to give NFL comparables, this kid could be the next CJ2K. And I could be wrong, and I could be out on my limb, but I really love this kid, and I think that he can be it on the next level. And I think speed kills. I think he's going to make one team, and he's a home run hitter. Like, he is going, like, so he's coming out as a junior. His sophomore year, he averaged 7 yards per carry, only 130 carries with close to 1,000 yards rushing. Guy's a home run hitter, 68-yard touchdown, 64-yard touchdown runs. So he definitely can hit the home run for you.
I agree. Like I said, I mentioned him earlier. I think he has the ability to be very good. Number 1 for me, I have Bijan Robinson from Texas. I will state having him number 1. He is not the runaway number 1 that some pundits or scout guys would like to make everybody believe. I think the gap between him and Zach and a couple other guys is a lot closer than everybody's leaking it out to be. Yeah. I think the biggest thing for Bijan is I think he's the most complete running back maybe in this class. He's the most solid. I think he is maybe the safest bet, and I think that's why a lot of people have him number 1 on his number 1 on the boards. I don't think you could say Bijan's going to be a bust. He might not hit his ceiling, but I don't think he's has any kind of dud potential. I do agree with Gene. I'm hoping the Eagles do not take him at 10. I know there's a lot of people that have a knee-jerk reaction to us losing Miles, and they want to fill that. And I just think there's so much more value there with other people, depending on who falls down the board. But again, I mean, I think whoever gets Bijan's going to be very happy. Gene highlighted a bunch of his stuff earlier. And funny thing is, I kind of agree across the board. I think sometimes he worries too much about East-West versus North-South. Yes. And the NFL, it's very important to go North-South. The defenses are just faster than in college. You go East-West too much, you'll lose even more yards than you did in college. He is very good out of the backfield. He has very good vision. He has everything. Again, he's a strong kid, not elite, not elite track speed. He's not a 100-meter sprinter, but he has very good speed. He's more than adequate, adequately fast enough to play in the NFL. Again, I think he's going to be very good. That's why I have him number one, and I think I'm number one, like I said, because I think he's the safest,
Highest floor, 100%.
shortest pick out of anybody else in this draft.
I agree with you. He has the highest floor.
Yeah,
that's fair. He has the highest floor. I just I don't know. I like swinging for the fences. I'm a home run hitter.
I hear you.
Bijan's going to be steady and solid.
Yep.
Do you know what? It's funny. I hate comparing him to a guy that got drafted way later than he should have. But do you know what I see when I see Bijan Robinson in the NFL level? Aaron Jones. I swear to you, like I see it all over him. Not elite speed, but good speed.
Yeah.
Can catch the ball out of the backfield. Mr. Reliable, but makes some boneheaded plays sometimes. I really think. And, I remember Aaron Jones in that playoff game. I was calling him the gutless wonder because he got scared. But there's a lot of things that are good about Aaron Jones. He got a $40 million contract as a running back. But that's just my comparable to him. I look at all these running backs and I give them comparables. But I think he's way closer to being Aaron Jones than he is to being Saquon Barkley. And I think that the Saquon Barkley comparisons need to really slow down.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I would agree with that. I mean, I think people forget how special Saquon, was when he came out, and that he still is. I mean, you saw it again last year when he was finally healthy. Saquon is the top tier of elite running backs in the NFL. I'm not quite sure we're ready to put Bijan in that class.
I completely agree with you. I just try to give comparables, and I heard a lot of people using Saquon as the comparable for Bijan, and I just don't see it. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see it.
No, I mean, I'm not ready to jump out on that limb. I just don't. If you really think that, anybody thinks that, like, go watch tape of Saquon's senior year in Penn State and then watch Bijan and then tell me who's the better running back.
I don't think
you're not going to have to watch much.
No, I don't think it's a question. All right, so that's our running backs list. Catrell will be back next week. We'll be doing our quarterbacks and wide receivers. We're going to post our offensive linemen on the page. And then we'll obviously have our draft show next week too, because we'll be on the day before the NFL draft, which I'm excited about. It's getting closer and closer. So it's a great time to really get into that. But I kind of want to move towards the NBA and not the playoffs. Because like I said, I want to touch on the playoffs next week when we have a little bit better idea of where we're at. I want to talk about a couple things as far as pressure, but I also want to talk about a guy that's been very friendly of the show. Dame Lillard made some comments, and I just kind of want to get into those. And I just wanted to, and I put something up on the Facebook page a few days ago, and I want to talk about that for a minute. And I'm not going to take too long on my CP3 high horse, but I think it's laughable that someone wants to compare Russell Westbrook to Chris Paul as a point guard. But we'll get into that third. Here's what I want to read the comments first, and then I'll have you react. In an interview with ESPN's Stephen A. Smith, he again dropped a very poignant message to Portland's front office. It ain't a threat. I ain't going to say I'm putting them on the clock. I'm just saying if things can't get done, if we can't do something significant like that, then we won't have a chance to compete on that level. Not only will I have a decision to make, but I think the organization will too be at a point where it's like, are you going to go young or are we going to get something done? I think we just been on the fence with fully committing to either one. I think at the point we're at now, everybody wants to win. They believe I deserve that opportunity. I want you to hear that last line. They believe I deserve that opportunity. I think this is our most important offseason since I've been here. Do you know what that sounds like to me? If Portland hits the lottery and gets Victor Wembanyama, Dame Lillard, and they get a free agent in there, Dame will be more than happy to stay. But if they can't lure a big-name free agent there, Dame Lillard wants out. And he's done it in the most respectful way. But the line that really just put me over the head, they believe I deserve that opportunity. That to me tells me that Portland said, look, if we can't get you a big name free agent, we're going to move on. We're going to go young. You deserve the opportunity to be in an area where you can win basketball games. Now, credit to Dame for being loyal, although I do, in my personal opinion, feel like that loyal word gets thrown out a ton. You did sign a really not big contract with that organization. So loyalty is on how you're getting paid in that extension. But shout out to Dame for not forcing his way out of a situation and handling it the respectful way. However, do you think Dame Lillard, first of all, I want your take on the comments. And second, do you think Dame Lillard plays for Portland next year?
So I'll break it down like like you said with the actual comments and the statements. I couldn't agree with you more. I think honestly, I can't remember a time of a big name star, face of a franchise type guy that's been there for his whole career to handle it better than Dame handled this and answered that question with Stephen A. Smith. Like you said in this thing, it's not a threat. I think it's, I think he has been loyal. I think he's given them more than enough time, and to just put it in layman's terms, I think it's time to shit or get off the pot, and I think he let Portland know that, like he said, like there's no hard feelings, like like I've loved being here. I re-signed here, like you said, because I want to be a winner here, but then we have to either really fully commit and go after it, or you guys need to fully commit to the rebuild, and he understands that he's not part of that. That is being a professional athlete to, like, the umpteenth degree of understanding the situation and knowing where you are. There will be no lack of suitors for him if they decide to go that way. We've talked about him numerous times on the show, and funny arguments, but I mean, there was a lot of talk about him possibly coming here 2 years ago. I would love to have him here, but it's a difficult situation. That being said, as much as everybody wants to handle it and say the right thing in the media, there's still going to be some hurt feelings somewhere, and it's still not easy to trade away the face of your franchise that's been that for the last 10 years.
Yeah, but I think isn't Portland the definition of purgatory? Like, I remember the 76ers being in purgatory. And what I mean by purgatory is, do you remember the Andre Iguodala days?
Yeah.
We'd make the playoffs. We might sneak through round one, and then we would you knew we never had a chance to compete. We didn't have MVP talent. We signed Elton Brand to that contract, and we had Iggy and Brand, and that was like our team. That was purgatory, right? Like, that's in between. You're not ever going to win. You got to blow it up. And if I'm Portland, this is the opportunity to blow it up. You get the assets for Dame. You probably could get – you look at the way the landscape shakes out, you could probably get two. They already have a top 10 pick. You can get another top 10 pick and a player.
I don't want to say it's purgatory. I think Portland – I think the thing that was frustrating with, like, the Sixers, for instance, when we went through that was we're not a small market team. And – they were treating it as such. Portland is a small market team with an not the same type of budget as other teams, and they also have a bona fide highly paid superstar. I think it's tricky for them. And to answer the second part of your question, no, I don't think he plays for Portland ever again. I think when push comes to shove, he's already signed his extension. To be relevant in the West, they're going to have to go, like you said, they have a top 10 pick. They're going to have to go get another max player, and then still make additions up and down that roster in other places for them to seriously be a competitor and be a serious threat to come out of the West and win an NBA championship. I just don't see that. I think it's easier for them, like you said, to blow up Dame, get 2 or 3 draft picks this year, keep Anthony Simmons, keep some of the younger guys, and then just start building it. I said before when they traded CJ a couple years ago, or last year, I thought that was kind of the first block to go. And then a lot of the trade talk picked up right away after that with Dame, because they were like, I mean, if they're trading his best friend, like, what is that saying to him? And now here we are a year later. So again, I mean, I'm not gonna be mad if he becomes a Sixer. I don't know what we have to give up to get him, but
you move on from Harden.
Yeah, but well,
Dame would have to replace Harden.
Correct, but it's a matter of what else on the roster you're giving up to.
Oh, I know. Well, the problem is Dame and Maxey playing on the same court is not a realistic thing. They're too small to defend the bigger guards in the league, and neither one of them are elite defenders.
I get that, but I mean, James ain't covering anybody either, so I mean,
it's fair. It's kind of the problem that we're dealing with now, though.
It is.
All right, so Dame Lillard, let's get that out of the way. Let me ask you a question real quick. What NBA player do you think has the most pressure on them? And this postseason, what NBA player do you think has the most pressure on them to perform? I don't want to say win a championship, but to make it to a finals or to really perform. I have a really interesting one. If you want me to start, I will. I have a really interesting one.
I mean, if you want to go first, you can. I mean, I just look at it like I think if we're talking about anybody that has pressure to perform or anything like that, I mean, if you're talking about any top tier guy, like is making the finals really enough? I mean, I think for anybody we're about to mention, I mean, I think it almost has to be championship or bust. But I mean, you can go first, and we'll see where we go.
For me, it's Kevin Durant, and with Kevin Durant's situation going from Golden State, and it reminds it's funny because I feel like Kevin Durant took the Kyrie path, but way less vocalized, right? Like he left the championship team in Cleveland because he wanted to be the bus driver or whatever mentality you want to give it, the leader of the team. Didn't like the situation in which he was leading the team. Kyrie a la Boston. These young kids and this and that. KD a la Brooklyn. Dealing with Kyrie's mess. Then he gets traded to a situation that is a really beneficial situation for him. Kyrie to Brooklyn. KD now to Phoenix. This situation is perfect for Kevin Durant to perform. Let me explain why. Does he have to be the leader in Phoenix? No. That's Chris Paul's job. Chris Paul's going to be your leader. Not your best player. Probably the fourth best player at this point. But he's your leader. Does he have to be an elite defender, a rim protector? No, you have that with DeAndre Ayton. He doesn't have to put up 35 a night. You have Devin Booker that can go off at any given night. But he has to perform. He has to fit in. And he has to make it work on that team. Now, they're undefeated when he plays. They're 8-0 for Phoenix. But I think the pressure, like if they get beat somehow by the Clippers in the first round, or they get beat in the second round before they get to that Golden State series, which I think is going to be Phoenix Golden State. I really believe that. That's a real big issue. Now, if they get knocked out in 7 games to Golden State in an incredible series, I don't hold that against him. But if there's an underperforming situation, I mean, Kevin Durant's definitely going to hear it. I mean, Kawhi's got a little bit of that pressure, but I don't think as much because Paul George is hurt. But I don't know. Just to me, it's Kevin Durant. Now, if I was saying anybody and not a player, it's Doc Rivers. 100% Doc Rivers. Doc's not a player, though, so I left this question open to players. But, man, if you want to talk about a guy that lived off of one championship in 2008 with the best roster in basketball, it's Doc Rivers.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about Doc at all. KD was the first one that came to mind, and honestly, I think, I mean, I don't want to say it's a close second, but if there is a second, I think honestly, I think it's his teammate. I think it's CP3, and again, I don't think it's on the level of a performance thing, like you said, like with who's on that team now and who's going to be on the floor, he's not expected to go out and score 22 a night and have 16 assists and anything like that. Like you said, his job is to lead and get this team over the hump. I would look at it is, you know, if and not, it's probably going to be a little bit unfair, but if he doesn't get it done with this group, like what is it going to take?
I don't think it's going to take anything. It's okay to be an NBA Hall of Famer, top 5 point guard of all time, and not win a championship. That's not. It's a thing.
I don't disagree at all. I just think if they do win one, with as great as he's been throughout his career,
it puts a stamp. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a rocket ship level to the next echelon of players.
Agreed. You stop having the comparison. Is he top 5? He's
correct.
definitely top 5 at that point.
Yeah, correct. No, I think
I agree.
you start. And then
there's more players though, bro. CP3 it wouldn't be second to me. He wouldn't be third.
No,
He wouldn't be fourth.
I was just saying on his team. I mean, I look at. I mean, I think one that's a little bit understated, honestly. For me, I think it's Jason Tatum.
Yep, that's correct.
I think, we've heard for the last 3 or 4 years how good this Boston team is, and then Brad Stevens stepped down, and it wasn't the coach or wasn't the players, it was the coach, and so forth and so on. And they got another loaded roster again this year, second place in the East. When is it time for them to take the next step? And he's the last couple of years, he's had a couple duds in the playoffs. I mean,
I made a fun comparison with this team. I want to ask you your opinion. I made a comparison about this on Coffee and Sports 3-4 days ago. Does this team not remind you of the 2003 Detroit Pistons? Where and what I mean by that is I don't look at Jason Tatum as a superstar. I don't. I look at him as a really good player. And it sounds bad. And I know he's going to probably finish 4th in MVP voting this year. I get it. But like when I look at Jason Tatum, so like watch how this works for me. 1 series and 1 series only. I still take Joker, Joel, Giannis, LeBron, even LeBron at his age that he's at now. I take Luka. I take Steph. I can go through almost every playoff. I still might even take Jimmy Butler. Last year, it was no question. But in 1 playoff series, I don't know if Jason Tatum's a top 10, top 15 player. Now, the reason I say that team reminds me of that 2003 Pistons team is there wasn't a top 10 player on that team. It was Chauncey and Rip and Rashid and Ben Wallace and Tayshaun Prince. When I look at that Boston team, I see Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Grant Williams and Al Horford. I look at that and I see very similar. They're the best team in basketball.
I don't mind the comparison at all. I think that the difference is, though, I mean, I disagree with you. I think Tatum's a superstar. Like you said, I think you're saying your best players of that 2003 team are, Rip Hamilton or Chauncey, like you said. I don't think either one of them are, or were a top 20 player in the league at that time.
Correct. Well,
I think
top
Tatum,
20 maybe, definitely not top 10.
Right, but I mean, I think Tatum definitely is.
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely top 20.
Yeah, so it's. I mean, I like the comparison. I mean, it's definitely it definitely makes sense, and and again, I agree. I think again, not to mention again. I mean, I think they have to take that next step. Like if they go out in the second round to us, I mean, I think at some point you need somebody's got to sit down at that point and be like, we have to change something. Like we've had the same core now for 4 years, and we can't get where we want to go, and we switched coaches and we did everything else under the sun, and here we are. So,
do you think it's really prevalent the fact that we haven't mentioned James Harden's name? Like it's almost expected that he's going to have a poor playoff performance, and so we don't even it's not a lot of pressure anymore because he's underwhelmed and underperformed his entire career.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say and the reason I'm going to say this is, I don't think it's fair, but I think it's going to be if they underachieve in the playoffs this year. it's going to be on JoJo.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's waiting to be able to sit there and point the finger and say, "Oh, see, your MVP, like this is what he is, like blah 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 blah." And I don't think that's fair. I think they're going to look at it and be like, "Well, everybody's finally going to give him the MVP this year," and say he just went out in the second round again. Like,
I
and
agree.
that wasn't something that was said about Joker for the last 2 years. So
I agree.
that aspect of it, I don't think the pressure's on James. Honestly, I think it's on JoJo. If you were going to point a finger at somebody on the Sixers.
The only reason I brought that up is because I want to bring you back. 2011, the Miami Heat's second year, they played the Oklahoma City Thunder in the finals. A young James Harden is the sixth man on that Thunder team. He was one of the best six men in the NBA. He won sixth man of the year that year. He was irrelevant in that final series. He was terrible. Yeah. He gets traded to Houston, makes the playoffs, underperforms, underwhelms, gets a lead. CP3 pulls a hamstring, blows a 3-1 lead versus Golden State, or 3-2, I think it was. But Game 6 was in their house in Houston. Yep. I think that with James Harden, it's almost as if we expect him to fail. We expect him not to live up to expectations.
I don't know if, expect really isn't the wrong words. I can't say that. I think it's what we're used to.
Yeah, no, that's my point. I think it's been the expectation.
Yeah, and again, and I think he's not.
Who would surprise you more if they had a great playoff run? Doc Rivers or James Harden?
It's still Doc for me.
It would surprise you more?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair.
That's
why I asked the question. I think it's close.
Yeah, my gut reaction is Doc, and simply because I think if James, can stay not banged up and stay healthy throughout the playoffs, you're not getting the 33 and 12 nights anymore, but I still think you're going to get a consistent 21 and 12. I don't think he is going to underperform that badly. Whereas, we've seen Doc already do it and mess up his rotations and every other damn thing in the world. So
if he throws the all bench lineup in there in a big game versus Boston, like I could see them up 10 or 11 in the third quarter, and he throws the all bench lineup in there and they blow the lead and Boston gets the momentum and they lose the game, I will lose my mind. If he throws the backup five in there, I swear I'm done with him. I'm done. I've already been done with him. But if he throws the backup five in there, I swear it better not happen. It better not happen.
I think that's going to take care of itself in the aspect.
You got to have two max players. Well, Max is not a max player, but two max players on the floor at all times, whether it be Maxey and Toby, whether it be Joel and James, whether it be Joel and Tyrese, whether it be, I don't care. Two of them have to be on the court at all times. There cannot be a time where you do not have two of those guys on the floor.
I don't disagree. And in a weird way, it's all you really have to do against Boston is match Jalen and Tatum. It's, if, like you said, if one of them is on the floor, then you have to have, a max player on the floor, like, to be equal to them. I don't think it's that complicated, but Doc will probably find a way to make it complicated. So
Doc does Doc things.
Yes,
the last thing I want to talk about before we moved off NBA. So I do want to give our NHL Stanley Cup predictions and then get in a little baseball talk. But this conversation, I don't know where it came from. I think I know where it came from. But it's been happening. Whose career would you rather have? Russell Westbrook's or Chris Paul? Who's the better player? I think Russ had the higher peak, but the peak was so small. Like a 2-3 year window was better than anything Chris did his whole career. When he averaged a triple-double, won MVP, a little bit of a stat pad. A lot of his teammates came out and made that very obvious that they were stat padding and even admitted it. But to act like Russell Westbrook is in the same stratosphere as Chris Paul throughout his career, it's laughable. I put a post up a few days ago on the Wire2Wire page, and I want to read some of the answers. And I did it intentionally for this show. And I said, I'm going to read it to you. Should have had this ready for this spot, but that's okay. I question so many people's knowledge of the sport of basketball. Here's an easy one. What's the primary job of the point guard on a basketball team? To be the quarterback of the offense. To put it in football terms. Put everyone where they're supposed to be, run the offense, get everyone involved. Facilitate the offense. Assist. To direct and distribute. Run the team. It's a lot of the same throughout all these answers. We got a couple more. We got lead, on-court coach, facilitate the offense, keep everybody happy, properly control the tempo of the game. All of the above. I was always told to create space and find the right pass. Name one of those things Russ does better than CP. Just one. He doesn't defend better. He doesn't pass better. He doesn't lead better. He doesn't distribute better. Where? Why? How?
No, I mean, like you said, I think that 2 or 3 year, crazy peak that he went on, you could say he was a better scorer than Chris Paul. But when you factor everything in, when you start factoring in efficiency and shooting percentage and every other damn thing under the sun, then it's not as clear cut as people would like it to be. Yeah, congratulations, you scored 20 points, but if it takes you 22 shots to get there, that's not a real effective night for me, in my opinion. I agree with you. I mean, you put it up, I commented on it. I still haven't seen anybody make any kind of profound argument for Russell Westbrook that has even given me pause to think that Chris Paul's not the answer. I think it's Chris Paul, and I agree with you. I don't think it's relatively close. Nobody's ever going to say Russell Westbrook was a top 5 point guard of all time, and if they do, then I want to know when they start watching basketball.
If you want to say he's a top 10 combo guard of all time, I'll listen to that. I'm not listening to the top 5 point guard.
Nope.
I don't even look at him as a point guard. I know he plays point guard, but I want to take you back to UCLA. Russ wasn't even the point guard on his college team in UCLA. He was there too because he couldn't facilitate the offense well. He's been point guard by the fact that he's ball dependent.
Yep.
But
yeah, I mean, he's not a guy that can come off screens and shoot and he's definitely not that guy that can do that at a high enough level in the NBA to be a 2 guard. So like you said, I mean, listen, Russell Westbrook is an amazing athlete. Nobody will ever say the dude didn't play hard or anything like that. But again, you could say all those things and they can be true. Doesn't make him a top 5 point guard of all time. And it's people can't delineate, the two things sometimes. And it's I could say, a guard that plays now is great. And, he had a couple, great seasons. That doesn't mean he's Michael Jordan. Doesn't mean he's, somebody like that. Like everybody just wants to compare these days. And sometimes it's, they're very good debates and they're very good, discussions to have. And some of them have a lot of relevance and, or the two players are really close. I just don't think this is one of those situations.
Completely agree with you. All right, well, let's move off the NBA topics. We'll talk more NBA for the next few weeks as the playoffs get heated up. I want to move into NHL, our Stanley Cup predictions. I just want to get them on record. I want to get our Stanley Cup winners on record. I don't want to lie to you and tell you I've been up on hockey. I'm the most casual of all casuals, especially this year. I think the Flyers are an absolute dumpster fire. Can't stand the way they handled last offseason, and it makes me almost rebuttal against hockey. Rebuke it. But I do want to give you a Stanley Cup prediction. How would you like to handle this, Shally? Do you want me to just give my prediction or what you think? But you let me know. How do you want to roll this? Do you want to present it? Do you want to give us like an opening speech, a monologue?
I mean, I'll give you a little bit of background, and you can just go into your picks and why you picked them.
That works.
I like you. This is I can't tell you. It's funny. Me and Billy C, who you know, he is one of my closest friends, and probably the only guy that I know that's a bigger hockey fan than me and Flyers fan than me. And we both were sitting there the other day, and we were just discussing it, and we were both just kind of like you were saying, like we were just disgusted with what the Flyers franchise is right now. I can't tell you the last time I watched as little Flyers hockey as I have this year. I've still been watching hockey. I've been numerous times staying up late watching the Oilers play and watch Connor McDavid play, who is just a freak. I don't even know how to describe him anymore. I love watching Colorado play with McKinnon and all those type guys. And then, you look at, what we're about to get into. I mean, you look at what the Boston Bruins did this year, which is just absolutely freaking incredible. I mean, you have to give it to them. Like Gene and myself, like Gene, I hate Boston. Don't hate the city, hate all their sports teams though. But they put on a historic season. Most points ever in a season. The amount of crazy stats that they produced this year is just insanity. They had over 100 plus goal differential positive wise. They had more road wins than any other team in the league had home wins. To put that in perspective for you, they only lost 3 home games in regulation, 3 or 4 home games in regulation. They are a very deep, complete hockey team across the board. But it's again, it's been another great year. I don't think there's anything. People always go back like, what's the best playoffs? NBA, Major League Baseball, football, hockey. I think hockey's incredible. I think hockey's different in that I don't think there's anything else like hockey. And I think that's what stands out for it. They don't have long breaks. They play every other day, no matter what. And the Stanley Cup is just a grind, man. To win it, you got to win 4 best-of-7 series. I mean, it's a grind. All the superstitions. I don't know. I love playoff hockey, man. Always have. I think that's why it's sad. Just like you said, I'm just really disappointed in what the Flyers are right now, and in reality, how far away they are from even being relevant to talk about on this show right now.
So I looked at the standings and I couldn't believe my eyes. Boston has 135 points. That's an NHL record. 65 wins, 12 losses, 5 overtime losses. So 65 and 17 if we're being completely transparent here.
Yep.
That's absurd. And it's very tough to not pick them to win the Stanley Cup. But I'm not going to. I always have to be different. I'm never going to be the one. It's super tough to win the Stanley Cup. And, although I'm going to project Boston to come out of the East, they could trip up in the East. But I'll tell you what I got. Did I go back to the well with Colorado? Nope. Did I go with the Vegas Golden Knights?
I already know where you're going.
You don't. My answer is no. What about Edmonton? I got the Dallas Stars. Dallas Stars over the Boston Bruins in the NHL Stanley Cup Finals.
I would say, I mean, I don't think Dallas getting there necessarily is that, insane of a prediction. They're very good. They're the highest, I think. They're like top 3 in goals scored per game. I mean, they're one of the highest scoring teams in the NHL. Jake Ottinger, their goalie, has come out of nowhere this year. I mean, I feel bad for him. He had an amazing year. If it wasn't for Linz Allmark from Boston, I mean, he'd probably squarely be in the Vezina conversation.
Robertson, man, that kid Robertson.
I mean, listen, you have Ben that's still there, Taylor Seguin that's still there. I mean, like they have kids that can play. They're very good. I could tell you from watching them a couple times this year, the only thing that worries me is they do get in lulls where they don't score. They'll score one night, they'll score 6, and the next night they'll score 1. I mean, it all levels out over time, but Dallas is a very good team. I mean, they've been fighting back and forth for that number 1 seed in the West all year. So they will be a very tough out. I think the West is very close. I mean, I think you can make a very good argument for pretty much all the teams you mentioned. I think Edmonton found a different gear this year towards the end of the season. We all know about Connor McDavid and Draisaitl and that team, how they can score. Their defense and their goaltending has been a little bit better this year. You see that I think they ended up with like 106 points, something like that. Dallas is very good. Colorado is Colorado. They're getting healthy again at the right time. And Vegas looks to be back to kind of where they were a couple years ago. I am going to go with Colorado to come out of the West this year again. 20 games ago, they were the 10th seed in the West, and they got everybody back. McKinnon came back healthy, and they just went on a tear and went from the 10th seed all the way up to the 1 seed. They know what it takes to win. They have all the key pieces to do it. Cale Makar obviously is a freak on the blue line. I'm going to go with Colorado to come out of the West. I am going to go with Boston and come out of the East. I just think they're too good. They're too complete of a team. I wouldn't disagree with you and say they couldn't trip up somewhere. I would tell you I would still be shocked if they did. Watching them play as much as they have this year, Tampa Bay is not what they were a couple years ago. I don't think they pose a realistic threat. They have Florida in the first round. I think they're going to dispatch of them very easily. I think the two that you're looking at is either Carolina or I would say the Devils. Devils are very young, very good, very fast. They started the season this year on that like 13-game win streak. I just don't know if the Devils are disciplined enough to beat Boston. I'll put it that way. Boston is front to back. They play great defense, great goaltending, and they have 3 lines that can score. It's kind of like the golden ticket for the Stanley Cup. But I'm going to go Boston and Colorado in the finals. And I hate doing this. I hate doing it.
I get it though.
They're one of the best teams I've ever watched play hockey, and I don't say that as a clickbait type statement or anything like that. If you watch them play hockey and really understand the sport, they are incredibly good at every facet of the game. I'm going to go with Boston over Colorado. I do think it goes 7 though. I think it's a great series. I think Colorado has the firepower and the skill level to give Boston some problems. So I will go Boston over Colorado in 7.
Okay. I don't have anything to argue with you. I'm just so casual with it at this point. Like I know a couple guys on a couple teams, but let's move on to Major League Baseball before we wrap up this show. It'll be a little shorter show this week than normal, but that's okay. We'll be back for a longer show next week with Catrell as our draft special hits. But I kind of want to ask you a couple questions, and I'm going to give you a team, and I want you to tell me if it's too early to push the panic button.
Okay.
It's too early to push lock them into the playoffs button. Okay. So it's going to be a team overperforming and underperforming. Like we'll ask if they're fool's gold or if the rain will wash them out.
Got it.
All right, I'll start with this one. The Tampa Bay Rays, are they for real?
Yes. I think the reason people want to write them off is they don't play power baseball.
Okay.
They're very good at putting the ball in play. They performed a suicide squeeze the other day with the bases loaded. They play fundamental baseball. They have good pitching. They're still waiting on Tyler Glass now to come back. They had that kid Shields who started off 2-0 and hadn't given up a run in like 2.5 games, and he exited the other day with what they're hoping is just UCL inflammation. So, hold your breath on that, hoping that's not a Tommy John situation. Hopefully he can rehab and come back. Like I said, they're going to get Tyler Glass now back shortly. And they do all little things right, dude. They play great defense. They pitch. They get people out. They put pressure on you, and they just play a different brand of baseball.
Are the Minnesota Twins for real?
I
agree with you on Tampa Bay, by the way. I don't know why I didn't give my take. I agree with you on Tampa Bay. I'm going to give you the answer too, but I'm going to ask you first.
Okay. I am not ready to lock Minnesota in. I think Minnesota has talent on that roster. I had them as a wild card to get into the playoffs last year, possibly win that division. They ended up with Carlos Correa coming back after all that nonsense this year. I don't want to say no, because I don't think, don't hate me, Catrell, I don't think there's a dominant team in that division still. I just don't. I think they can get in the playoffs with 87 wins. You know what I mean? I don't just Cleveland turning on in the second half like they did last year. You know what I mean? So do they have enough talent to get there? Yeah. I mean, will they? For sure. I don't know. It's just that division is just so up for grabs.
Okay. Are the Texas Rangers lock them in or lock them out?
I'm still going to go with lock them out. I think they're going to be better. I mean, I think one or two has picked them to maybe make a wild card. I think Catrell picked them. I'm not sure if you did. Listen, they added Jacob deGrom. I mean, yeah. I mean, their rotation is definitely better. If those guys perform, like they have their whole career, that's going to keep them in the race. They just lost your boy the other day for probably a month or so, if not more, which is going to be a big, big hit for the middle of that lineup. And he was having a good start to the year. So, it's such a grind, man. They got to tread water until they get him back healthy. But I mean, it's again, I think at some point Houston's going to start playing like Houston, and I think once that happens, they're going to win the division. And then I'm still kind of waiting for Seattle to kick it in too.
My final one for good, and we'll go to the bad. Gene's Pittsburgh Pirates.
I mean, I'm not going to lock them in. I mean, it's early. There is talent in that division. There's talent on that roster, though. I mean,
the O'Neal Cruz injury hurts them a lot.
The O'Neal Cruz was crushing to watch. It's just a freak thing, and them not having him, I mean, for what looks to be a very, very prolonged time.
Yeah, almost 2 months.
Yeah, it's going to hurt them. They don't have the depth there where, they have 5 or 6 other studs to pick up the slack.
He's their best player.
He's their best player. So that's going to hurt them, and ultimately, I think that's going to be kind of the beginning of the sinking ship.
We don't need to say pirates and sinking ships. All right, so for the teams that are underperforming, here's the questions. The Seattle Mariners, lock them in or lock them out?
I just mentioned them. I think they'll turn it around again. I mean, I think the one thing that was a little bit against them last year is they struggle to score sometimes. I think they have one of the more unheralded staffs in the league, front to back. I mean, they have Luis Castillo for the full year this year. I like Seattle. Seattle to me is kind of like Tampa Bay. They just don't play, the power brand of baseball. They don't get in the box to try to hit 4 home runs every night. I think they have enough talent that they turn that around. So I will. I'll still buy the Mariners.
Okay. How about the St. Louis Cardinals?
This one's interesting, and I'll tell you this. I'll tell you why. I still think they're the best team in that division. I think the hot start for Pittsburgh has, you know, kind of surprised a lot of people. I think the Cubs are a little bit better than people thought they were going to be, which is a little interesting. Milwaukee's going to be Milwaukee with that pitching, but again, I think we fully expect them to blow that up at some point because I just don't think they can afford to have Corbin Burns walk away for nothing.
Yep.
St. Louis's pitching is struggling, and there's no other way to put it. You know, they had Jack Flaherty coming back, who I've always been a big fan of. He hasn't looked great. Uh, their starting pitching, which should be one of their strengths, is not right now. Again, I still think they win the division. I will still buy them. Not my most confident buy in the world.
Okay. We got two more for you. These guys were darlings 2 years ago. They were decent last year, but they've completely fell off the rails. The San Francisco Giants.
I'm going to sell San Francisco. I just don't think they put all their eggs in the Aaron Judge basket this year. Didn't get them with other things they've lost, and as good as we expect the top of the NL West to be with San Diego and LA. Obviously, I don't see how they compete and stay in that. They just don't have the pitching. They don't have the the power, and they don't have the producers on offense to stay in that race.
Last and certainly not least, you knew this was coming.
I did.
The Philadelphia Phillies.
I'm gonna buy them still, and I'll say it for this. I'll say the time is on their side in that it is still early. They are missing, their number 3 starter. Andrew Painter started throwing again today, so it looks like they're gonna have him back in the rotation, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Bryce Harper is ramping up his, rehab. He's running. It looks like he's gonna play some first. They're gonna fill that hole that way. Starting the year and not having him, and then losing Reese at the very end of spring training, and then even be like, okay, we'll turn over to Derek Hall, who looked really good in the spring training, hit the ball well, and then he hurts his thumb, he's out for the year. There's no bones about it. They have to play better. The pitching needs to be better. Nola has not looked great yet, and then you got a couple other guys that just really shouldn't be in a rotation right now. So I believe in the talent. I believe in that clubhouse, and I think they're going to get healthy. And when they get healthy, I think they're going to be better. And once the weather really breaks, I think they're okay. I think they make the playoffs like we all thought they did, thought they would. Sorry.
I sure hope so, because this team reminds me so much of last year's team in the beginning of the year. Their base running mistakes are terrible. They seem to always make the wrong decision. They're losing games to teams that are absolutely dreadful, and I just can't take it. And they annoy the hell out of me. They've always annoyed the hell out of me. I'll always get on for a postseason ride, but I think that my relationship with the Phillies is more hate than love. I love them so much that it bothers me so much that when they don't play well.
Right.
I'm more of a, when the Sixers play, I'm more happy when they win than mad when they lose. When the Eagles play, I'm more happy when they win than mad when they lose. But when the Phillies play, I'm way more mad when they lose.
See, I think you're a lot like me in that, it kind of goes hand in hand with what you were just saying. I can watch an Eagles game, and if they play bad or do stupid things, it'll get to me, but it's not. It's different with baseball. When I watch Major League Baseball players do stupid things, that is a level of annoyance that can't be matched in any of the other major sports for me. But
when you know the game and it's supposed to happen. I can watch football and tell you what's supposed to happen on most plays. I can tell you what defenses are running. All the studying I've done with the All 22 and really watching it, I can study it. But there's the knowledge of what's supposed to be done in baseball is secondhand to me. I know where a player's supposed to be. I know when you're not supposed to take an extra base. I know when you're not supposed to round first base way too far when the bases are loaded and you score 2 runs.
That is the stuff that I think they need to clean up, and again, I think they will. I think there are a lot of bright spots, though. Like I said, I mean, you have to really do if you want to be critical of what they're doing wrong, and you have every right to be, and again, I have been. You do have to give them credit in the full picture of things. Like you've not had Ranger Suarez all year. Andrew Painter, who we thought was going to be the 4 or 5, has not thrown. He's coming back. You're missing your best player. And then you lost another 120, 130 runs out of the lineup with Reese. I think you have to look at the bright spots in that. Alec Boehm and Stott have, by all indicators, taken that next step. And are I think even with last year with the BS, I was high on Alec, and I'm just as high on him as I am now. I had him on my list, but he looks like a player that's really, really starting to get it. And then I was really high on Stott last year, as in I thought he could be a good player that would contribute to this team. And I just liked him personally the way he plays. I think he has a little bit of don't kill me, but I think he has a little bit of Chase Utley in him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I said that last year though.
And I think you're starting to see it. I think he's been even more impressive to me this year than Bohm's been, and they're both playing great. You factor all that in, and then again, you start penciling Bryce Harper in the number 3 hole every day. I think things will start to change.
Okay. Well, that's all I got. Anything you want to add? Final? You got to be kidding me. You want to go over this week? I don't have one.
I don't have one either.
Okay,
no.
That's all right. We're gonna have our show next week is gonna make up for this shorter show. Next week's show is going to fully hit that 3-hour mark, probably 2.5 hours. We got a lot of draft talk to get into with Catrell getting back, and we saved a lot of stuff for us to go through with the 3 of us. But I take pride, and we take pride. Bill takes pride. Catrell takes pride. He's in the DR trying to help create graphics. 132 straight shows where we haven't missed a Wednesday, and we're not going to miss a Wednesday. That's what we do. Rain nor sleet nor shine, we figure out a way to put on a quality show with some quality stuff. I think we gave a real good conversation tonight. There was no heatedness. There was no back and forth that some people like, but
quality conversation.
Quality conversation, and I think that'll be good end of the show. I appreciate everybody tuning in to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. Give us a download on Facebook, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcast. Shally, any final thoughts?
No, man. I hope Catrell, and like you said, I hope Catrell and all you enjoy their 1-year anniversary vacation in DR. I hope you have fun in Mexico. Hope everybody's safe and everybody goes, enjoys the tropical weather. I'll be stuck in humid PA for the next week, but I hope you guys all go have fun, have some fun on the beach, relax, get some R&R, and come home safe.
If you like pina coladas, all right. But
I like you singing.
That's our show, Wire2Wire Sports Podcast, and we are signing out.